It's not going to be your first game coaching in the big house. You were there with UCF a couple of years ago, and we all understand what you were able to do there, go from winless to undefeated. How did you do that, Scott Frost?
It was tough. We had a lot of great coaches there. We had a lot of great kids there. And the best thing that happened is everybody came together and worked for each other, and we were all part of something that was bigger than ourselves. And it was tough. You know, first year we got better and went 6-6, including a drubbing up in the big house. And our kids played really hard in that game, but we were probably outmatched quite a bit in that one. And that was just one of the steps along the way. I tell you, everything really came together this past season, and there was so much love in the building and everybody working hard for each other that I think that was a group that was able to accomplish a lot of special things.
Scott Frost of Nebraska, formerly of UCF. Before we turn the page on UCF, do you feel, even now, still months later, that it is right for UCF to raise a banner? Talk about half a championship, if not being a national champion last year.
You know, every time I make one comment about that, it gets blown up. So I've kind of moved on, and UCF's moved on, and it's time for us to all move on. I will say that any kind of accolades that team gets, they deserve. That was a special group of guys that accomplished something in a 2-year stretch that I don't know if it'll ever be done again in college football. And I'm proud of that team, and I'm proud of those guys. You know, historically, you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, there's been a lot of split championships. And, you know, going back when there wasn't a definite national championship game with the BCS, and people were just playing in bowl games, there's a lot of situations where two undefeated or great teams didn't get an opportunity to play each other. And you know, I believe in '97 it probably deserved to be split, and I've kind of said publicly, even in '94 when Nebraska was crowned champion, Penn State had a great team, was undefeated, and probably deserved a share of it too. And you know, until we get to a playoff, and I'd love to see it be an 8-team playoff. There's always going to be situations that arise where somebody gets shut out of the thing, and it's a shame that had to happen to our team, but that doesn't take away from anything that group accomplished.
So let me get in a little deeper into that. 8 teams. I am with you. I would have loved to have seen UCF take on Alabama as maybe there's even just a 1 versus 8 seed. Just throwing that out there. I'm not pegging anybody for. I would have loved to have seen that. How can that be squared, though? I mean, as a coach, as you know how long of a season it already is, do you have any concerns about that? Because that's always going to be coming right back at. And you talk about '97. If there are more playoff games, people say that it would defray the regular season. But I am with you. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I don't think it takes away from the regular season, because if you're not, you know, at least a 1, maybe 2-loss team, you're not even in the conversation. And the teams that don't have those type of records won't be in the top 8 anyway. And I think every game is still going to matter. I don't think it makes the season long I think you can address that problem. And, you know, right now, because we're coming out of a bowl system, you still, the way it works right now, you still make the semifinals like a bowl experience. And I knew that from the first playoff when I was at Oregon, and we played Florida State in the Rose Bowl and won, and the whole week was like we were at the Rose Bowl. And then we had to turn around and go try to play a great Ohio State team the next week. And I think if you're going to go to 8, you start the playoff earlier. And I, you know, just speaking for myself, if I knew I was in the playoff, I would gladly sacrifice a quote-unquote bowl experience in order to get the playoff started. And maybe the semifinals can be on New Year's Day, and then there's 1 week left that only 2 teams have to play in after the bowl season's over. So I think you can address those things. I think it would also address the problem, you know, if you have an undefeated team going into a conference championship and somebody else beats them, you're not going to take a conference champion. You're going to take the team that maybe has 1 loss. And I think an 8-team playoff would allow you to have 5 conference champions and 3 at-large teams. That would include a team like that was undefeated and lost late, or potentially a team like UCF last year that probably deserved to be in the mix for something like that.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.